All right, guys, welcome to another episode of Side Quest Podcast, the unofficial podcast of Fitocracy. I have a great guest here for you today, but before I get to introducing the guest, you guys know the routine. Just want to remind you, if you want to follow us on Twitter, check us out there at SideQuestFM. We're on Instagram at the same, SideQuestFM. You can find us on Facebook. Just go there, search SideQuest Podcast. Check out the website at sidequestpodcast.com. All of the interviews go up there. There's a blog there as well. Getting traffic there as best as we can. But again, the most important thing that I continue to ask is just go to iTunes, leave a review, say, I love the show, great guests, whatever you want to say. It helps us to move up the charts so more people can see us. We hit the What's Hot section, so we got that goal of mine to get there. It was a little further down the page, but we were there. So my goal for 2015 is to hit the front page. So please go there, leave a review, tell your friends, and hit the subscribe button. That helps as well. Today's guest, he is a strength and conditioning coach. He retired from the Canadian Army, where he worked as an engineer, and is now working to get people in shape. He is pretty much a power lifter. He's a big guy. He's pretty strong. I've seen his videos on YouTube. But he is an online coach as well, and works with Fitocracy clients, getting everyone in shape there. Working with post-rehab, working with strength, getting people in their nutrition lined up. And he has some great programs out there. His Rookie to Rockstar program is getting great results, and I've seen some of the stuff going on. So I'm welcoming to the show today Mr. Thom Lamb. Tom, how are you?
I'm great, Robbie, and congrats on hitting that goal in 2014, man. That's awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, it was, I went there and I was like, I'm just out of S&Gs. I'm just going to look at this. And I went down like 2 clicks and I was like, oh my God.
Yeah. It's a little freaky, when you get on the internet and you're like, well, I mean, you were just interviewing me, and I'm like, somebody I don't even know knows all this stuff about me. It's a little weird. But it's kind of cool, too. It's neat to be able to reach people that you never would have otherwise met and help them out, so.
Yeah, a friend and I were talking about that last night. It's that the internet has kind of given everyone a voice, but it's also given everyone a voice. So it's it's very interesting the reach that and in just a few years, 30, 40 years ago, you had to call people and or you had to call a payphone, or now it's people instantaneously, you get a message halfway across the world. It's just
yeah. It was funny even when you were asking me about is there any weird pronunciation? Are you Finnish or something because your name's got an H in it? It's like no, we just actually used to get actual physical mail, and my dad and I had the same name, so I just decided it'd be cool if my name was Thom because I read something about the River Thames. I don't know. And I was 13, and they were wont to indulge my creativity, so they let me change my name. It's not even a legal change. It's really just another way to spell Thomas.
Yeah.
But only my mom calls me Thomas, so let's not even go down that road, okay?
Well, that's me. My great grandmother. It was the full name. She called the full name. I'm in trouble. Grady told out the full name.
Yeah, Thomas Michael Lamb. Yeah.
So how did you? So you were in the Army, and we'll talk a little bit about that as well in just a second. So how did you transition from that into fitness?
I actually, good question. Wow, that was 25 years ago. So I went from being, believe it or not, I've actually I'll send you a picture. You can put it on if you got show notes or whatever. But I actually have a Throwback Thursday picture on my Facebook, or I did, of me when I was 17 years old with hair down in my butt, acid wash jeans, and we were a Poison cover band. And so if you can imagine that, and I had kind of a bumpy growing up. My parents moved around a lot. They liked to get married a lot. There was a whole lot of instability. And for a while, I thought that was awesome because I could party and I could go out and I could, do all the things that a young teenager thinks are a good idea. And then when I turned about 17, we were on a gig, believe it or not. I dropped out of high school and we were driving back from Belleville, Ontario, and we drove through this place called Kingston, Ontario, where the Royal Military College of Canada is. And just for fun, we decided we were going to go check this place out and make fun of it. And we drove by and we saw these guys playing rugby, and they just, I don't know. I just saw this place and I was kind of like, wow, these guys are in shape, and like they're kind of terrifying. And I thought it was pretty cool. And I'd always been like a wire. Actually, it was wiry, but I kind of decided I was like, I want to get into shape. And so even before I joined the military, fitness had been something that had kind of rescued me. It kind of made me a lot stronger. There's like a Henry Rollins poem called "The Iron" that really resonated with me. Helped me when I was a kid, going through a lot of stuff. Getting into the gym was where I kind of found my center, and it didn't clean me up. I wasn't like, I wasn't going out and doing smack or whatever. I was just drinking and partying like most kids are, but I was kind of wasting my life too. And as soon as I started getting stronger, I realized I had the power to get smarter too. And I started applying myself. I started getting better grades. I got back into actually showing up for school once in a while. And I decided I wanted to get into this Royal Military College, which is like West Point for Canada. So, not quite as cool. It's like the CFL of the NFL, but it's still pretty hard. You get about one kid per town actually manages to get in, and it's a full scholarship, and it was a big deal. So I managed to get in and play rugby for them. And the great thing about RMC, probably a lot like West Point, we went down to West Point a couple times too, is fitness is a huge part of being a leader in the military. If you're not fit, you just can't do that job. And another nice thing about the military is they got the budget to like pay people that really aren't that great at sports to play sports against people that are really great at sports. So we got our butts kicked pretty much every Saturday, by some of the best athletes in Canada. And so that was an opportunity to learn. And I realized that, the fitter I was, the stronger I was, the more dominant I was going to be. And so I guess, long story short, or long story kind of not so long, the other nice thing about the military is when you're not actually at war and you're not overseas, you're kind of just sitting around and you're doing paperwork and you're sneaking off to the gym a lot. So I'd basically been, I'd actually driven down to see Louis Simmons at Westside. I think that was in like 1995 when Westside was just becoming. I don't know if you've heard of Westside Barbell.
Oh yeah, of course.
Okay, yeah, okay. So I went, and you wouldn't believe how friendly. It's amazing. Like I tell people this, and they don't believe me, but I called Louis, and I was like, "Yeah, I'm getting moved, or what do they call that in the military? I should know this now. It's been a while." I'm getting reassigned. No, there's a word for it. Anyways, yeah, I'm getting transferred to CFB Edmonton, and I got to drive through the States to get there because driving through Canada is incredibly boring. Fast food collections are a lot more limited, and I was at a pretty good metabolism at the time, so I could just eat whatever I wanted. Those were the days. So I called Louis, my hero, and I was like, "Can I come and train with you guys for a week?" And he's like, "Yeah, sure. Just crash at this motel and meet me at this diner at, I don't know, 7 a.m. On Tuesday. I'll see you there." And a pretty hard table to miss, by the way. So I guess my point was that basically the whole time I was in the military, I was studying fitness. I was studying guys like Mel Sif, and got to hang out with him actually for a weekend once. That was kind of neat.
Cool.
And just like picking up these little certifications here and there. And then I left the military to do, I know this is a long answer, but I'm like 40, so I got a lot of stories. I left, I'm trying to speed it up.
No, you're fine.
I'm just like, I left the military in 2003. I had a prof that kind of thought I was hilarious when I did my bachelor's at RMC. And he asked me to come back and do my master's with him, and he promptly fired me within about a week because all I wanted to do was like try to figure out ways to make the AutoCAD lab make a reverse hyper machine and like knurl a heavy duty barbell and misappropriate military funds to like try and make the world's greatest strength and conditioning center. And even to the point where like they had this stress like machine, and I was like, so what are the chances of me getting a barbell in there? And he's like, that thing is designed to crush girders, and you want to go underneath it and try to figure out how to build your squat. He's like, you need to go study kinesiology somewhere or something. So, so I dropped out of that. I got into Queen's, which is the other university in Kingston. Wow, I'm gonna get a lot of hate for that. Okay, well, it's the most prestigious university in Canada, or one of them, but having gone to RMC, I consider it the other university in Kingston. And I went there to study cognitive science because the other thing I was fascinated with was like languages and metagrammars and the idea of how human thought works and stuff. And I was just kind of really getting interested in that and how that influenced like behavior, because I was finding, even though I hadn't become a strength coach yet, I was kind of finding that people would take my programs that I give them for free and they wouldn't do them. And I was fascinated by the psychology of like those things, so I was kind of getting into that. But I ended up dropping out of that too because I was training at the Queen's gym, and I ended up actually meeting a couple local guys that were really into strongman. Ended up meeting up with Hugo Girard, who's a world strongman guy. He ended up kind of not hiring me. He ended up like, well, we met him by going to a few competitions and not getting our asses kicked too bad. And then we got to be touring strongman for a bit. And that's kind of what started my whole strength career.
So for any of the listeners out there who don't understand strongman, and if they do, they probably have visions of what I watched as a child, which was ESPN, watching huge like Lithuanian and Scotsmen like carrying giant boulders and pulling trucks with their teeth.
Yeah. Not quite.
So just describe a little bit about how strongman differs from like normal like I guess or like bodybuilding.
Yeah, awesome. Like, what do you mean, like by powerlifting versus bodybuilding versus strongman, or
like how? So, I mean, I'm familiar with it, but for people who don't know what it is, like most people probably just think, oh, this guy just goes in and he squats and he does other weightlifting things, but there are other aspects that strongman encompasses. So, what are those things that strongman does that others don't?
That's a wicked question. And actually, when I first got to Kingston, I actually got approached by a guy. I was powerlifting, and I was really into powerlifting, and that's always been my first love. And this guy was 6'4", and he had catcher's mitts for hands, and he could squat about 600 pounds, which for a guy that's 6'4" and is been like lifetime drug free, just naturally gifted athlete, could slam dunk a basketball, was just. He should have gone to the NFL, to be honest, but he was too lazy. It was sorry, Joe. But it's true, you know. He was just, I was like, dude, you're not going to do well in powerlifting unless you go up to 400 pounds, but you would be an amazing strongman. And to answer your question, here's why. Strongman is like, if you could dream of the world's greatest team to help you move out of your house, that would be strongman. Because they can just pick anything up and move very quickly with it and navigate obstacles. And a good example of I think the event that people think of most when they talk about strongman. And just disclaimer here, I'm one of the least successful strongmen in history. I was not very good at this at all. I was just really, really strong, but I had no fitness and no athletic ability, which defines my entire athletic career, actually. Just no ball sense at all when it came to like football or rugby. So a good example of a strongman event is the Atlas Stones. And so what's different from that in gym lifting is like manipulating odd items. So like round balls that you actually have to clasp your hands around and hold, or farmer's walk is a really good modern strongman event. We don't do a lot of they don't do stuff like driving a truck over your abdomen and you bracing as hard as you can anymore, or anything that could like potentially like kill you. Well, they just do stuff like timber carries, overhead pressing with like a fat bar that you have to clean off the ground, but because there's no bearings and there's no rolling in the sleeves, you literally have to like use your wrist strength and a continental clean to get that thing up to your shoulders. So it's just a lot more of like man strength, if you will.
I got you. Using a little more of like, it's
conditioning is also very important. Like anaerobic conditioning is crucial for a strongman. Like the work capacity for events under 2 minutes in duration. That's like that. Understanding that fuel system, and you got to realize too, the guy's work output is insane, right? Because he's usually carrying like a 900-pound implement with him while he's like trying to run. So I mean, one time we did a one time, we did this. I remember we did this fire truck pull, and the difference between 10th place, me, and first place was like 1.2 seconds. So not only are these guys like running with a fire truck attached to them, but they're like being like, oh, you only got fourth because you were 0.4 seconds because your start was a little slow. Like, oh geez, sorry, sorry I saved a burning building with my legs, but I'm I was 0.4 seconds slow, so I guess the kitty didn't make it out. I don't know, like it was crazy. So they're insanely nowadays. Guys like Brian Shaw, those guys are amazing athletes, and it's just, if you haven't seen Modern Strongman, you should check it out.
Yeah, I've been. I turned the TV on the other day. The CrossFit games were on. I was like, no, I can't watch this. I can't do it, because then I'll start to want to do it, and my wife will be like, please no, don't give yourself something else to annoy me while I'm in grad school.
Yeah, exactly. And CrossFit games are pretty interesting too. I mean, a lot of people are like kind of negative towards the CrossFit movement, but if you look at those athletes, like you really have to respect that level of dedication,
Oh yeah, I mean to be able to do, to essentially do thrusters and then have to do like
even the kipping chin-up. There's no way in heck that I'm going to be doing 25 kipping chin-ups.
Yeah, no, it's and then like, okay, now you got to swim 4 laps and then get out and do like, good God.
Yeah, and I got a letter for swimming in high school, and I was a pretty good swimmer, but we used to do these circuits of like dry land stuff and then laps, and that is the most awful thing. And plus, in the military, I was an engineer, and engineers operate in the water a lot, so we got a lot of like, it wasn't like being a Navy SEAL or anything, but no, I should probably clarify though. There's some Canadian troops out there that I'm sure that they would be pretty confident putting themselves up against. Anyways, we won't even get into that, because I can imagine, because I've already probably PO'd the Queen students, strongman fans, CrossFitters. Don't even ask me about
let's talk a little bit about your time in the. We'll talk a little about the time in your army, because I do want to ask. So you said when you're not in war, obviously, you have a lot of time, kind of just doing paperwork and sneaking off to the gym. So is there a standard like protocol for like Army training? Like, do you get up at 6 a.m. and run 4 miles, or 4 a.m. or whatever it is? Like, is there a standard thing you have to do?
A standard thing? No. Well, for one, I mean, that's another disclaimer. Like, I was always in shit in the military. I never deployed. I wasn't like in shit like I was getting drunk or anything. I just had a big mouth. And I would always piss off my commanding officer or my senior instructor TAC, and so long story short, man, my military career basically consisted of like being in trouble, and it was funny too. But okay, so to answer the real question, so I guess what I'm trying to say is that if you're looking for the the special ops opinion, I'm not really the guy that should be giving that. I know some of those guys. They're scary, and I know what they do. Like, well, I don't know what they do, but I've seen what they do. But there is no one fitness. This is actually an issue for the Army, because the Army is constantly trying to figure out a good test, a fair test, to determine the fitness of like the people they're first bringing in, the people that are going to graduate from basic, all of these like, these steps, right? And a lot of times in the first couple steps, there's human rights issues where people are saying, well, that's not fair because that's not actually a realistic test, and there's all sorts of issues surrounding that. But the long story version was, or the short answer was, running used to be the biggest thing in the military. It was always about running, and that used to irritate the crap out of me because I was an engineer and we built bridges and we hauled stuff, and I was also huge. So of course this little guy from Chicoutimi, Quebec could run faster than me, but then we get on a bridge build and he couldn't get the main girder off the ground.
Yeah.
So, you know, it was like, oh yeah, that guy's fitter than me. Well, then how come he's he's got an ice pack on his back and he's on restricted duties for the next 3 days while I'm going to be working the whole time. And then when I'm done, I get to check in with the CO to get in shit for my fitness again. You know, and it's like, so, I mean, really the Army it's interesting because there's so many different jobs that the military has to perform. Everything from like, you know, long distance patrolling. Well, of course, then it makes sense that they have a lot of cardiovascular endurance, right?
Right.
But then if you have a mechanized unit, really, if you're running, things have gone horribly wrong. Because, you know, all of your mechanized units have been annihilated, you know, and you're just like, bug out, like get out of the, you know, it's like we're on fire, like so that's not, so I guess, you know, long story short, I got a lot of, which I say a lot, and it never ends up happening, but my buddies that are in the military right now, they tend to have their PTs actually dictated by either their commanding officer or whoever's in charge, and so it tends to be very varied. You've got some guys that are really into weightlifting, some guys that are into mixed martial arts. And as a result, the troops are like, okay, well, today we're going to go for and marching's important, but so is calisthenics, and there is a lot of weightlifting. Actually, Canada, at least at CFB Gagetown, that's the closest base. It's only 20 miles away. They put a ton of resources into their powerlifting and into their weightlifting and stuff. So they see huge value in that. So,
Okay.
So yeah, they let the guys that are powerlifters train. They let them travel and compete. And it's pretty cool, actually.
Okay. Yeah, I think I know. You know, here in the States, we have this idea from, because unfortunately, I think most people get their ideas from movies.
Yeah.
And take that as exact science. But you know, my grandfather was in the armed forces and did some other things. And you know, my dad used to tell me that it was embarrassing as a 12-year-old boy to be outrun by your father. You know, who would give you like a 50-yard start and then still beat you with like 40 yards and a 100-yard dash. He was like, it was ridiculous.
Yeah, and it's just
go ahead.
It's just kind of like a microcosm of the problems in the fitness industry too, which we're finally just kind of like. I mean, I'd say realistically, about 5-10 years ago, we started to move past that cardio is king idea. You know,
right.
And we kind of went a little bit too far onto the resistance training side because the truth is somewhere in the middle, right?
Right,
of course. It's the same thing with the military. It's the appeal of running is it's so simple. You know, it's just like get out and run. There's no logistics other than making sure that people, you know, I don't know, don't sneak off the side. But I mean, if you're going to organize a platoon and get them to do resistance training, well, now all of a sudden there's all these variables and it's hard to plan, and it's not something most you know, platoon commanders are trained for. So the simple solution is like, let's run the shit out of them. Mm-hmm. And in all fairness, you know, yes, aerobic endurance has some negatives, but it also builds a lot of heart. Like, for you to just keep up and keep going on a mental level for a soldier, I mean, it builds that same kind of quality of like, I'm not giving up. I'm going to keep going.
Right.
And there's that's a good thing to have, you know, like, so I mean, and I'm the last guy to be the guy that's sticking up for running because I friggin' hate it. I absolutely hate it. I don't know how many times in my life I've had a rugby coach or a you know, drill sergeant or whatever, you know, yelling at me, and it sucks, you know. But it's important too. I mean, doing the things that you suck at is sometimes the things that you need to do. So, anyways.
No, and I like that you said that, you know, the fitness industry has kind of figured out that everyone moved from running, and then it was like, let's do weights, and everyone's trying to figure out, you know, in the middle. And I think that's also true for, in a way, with nutrition. You know, a lot of people go to an extreme and then you kind of pull back from that extreme, and you go, okay,
Yeah.
so it was really in the middle, which is where I was looking the whole time.
And if I could just add one more point in, though, just
go
for
ahead.
people listening, that's not me saying that if you're overweight or out of shape, the first thing you should do is get onto the pavement and run. I would really not like you to go away with that as an impression, because I'm not saying that at all. I would say running is one of the most intense, challenging activities you could do. It's an activity that a very healthy person should enjoy. If you're of that particular insanity in your head, good for you, not me, but it's something you should be able to do if you're healthy. But it is definitely not the first step in becoming healthy. So I just want to make that clear before we get back into nutrition, like you were going to talk about nutrition. But I don't want people listening going, well, if guys in the Marine Corps can do it, then I can do it. It's like, well, no. It's not a good first step. Walking is a wonderful first step. Ironic, no pun intended. But I'll take the puns when I can get them. But yeah, just to clarify that. So. Okay, sorry, but nutrition you were saying?
No, you're fine, Tom. It's an open conversation. We can talk about your teddy bear collection if you want. I don't care.
Only got two.
So this will go up in 2015. So it'll be the first episode of 2015, and everyone will
nice.
Every year wants to make all of these changes. And already, people have seen me at work, and they're like, "Oh man, you know what? That salad, that's going to be me January 1st."
Yeah, why is that?
I love salads. Salads are tasty, but you don't have to eat a salad to get healthy. Like, you can enjoy a salad, but it's not written in stone, must eat salad. So how do you approach nutrition with clients? Like, what are your tricks and tools of the trade that you use to kind of teach proper nutrition?
Okay. One, nutrition is at least half, if not more, of the battle, so it is incredibly important. And it's also 99% of the hard work for a coach. Because it is amazing how you could say to someone, all right, today for your workout, you're going to do 4,000 burpees, and then you're going to climb up a tree. Then you're going to hit yourself with a hammer 5 times. And then you're going to run around the house screaming, I'm not fat. And then you're going to do 1,000 squats. And they'll be like, okay, I'm in. I'm doing it. And then you go, okay, so maybe instead of eating a bagel with cream cheese and fruit salad for breakfast, could you maybe eat half a bagel and have a protein shake or an egg? And they're like, well, eggs will give me cancer and heart disease, and I'll die. I can't change that. And you're like, okay, wait a minute. So you were willing to climb up a tree, but you're not willing to change your nutrition in any way unless I give you like 11 peer-reviewed articles proving that eggs aren't going to kill you. And so I'd say about 20% of the population we work with, they have all of these ideas about nutrition. It's amazing to me how comfortable people feel when they're 50 pounds overweight with their nutritional knowledge. I'm comfortable in saying I know almost nothing about how to train for a marathon. It is not something I'm interested in. It is not something I would do well at. I'm very comfortable saying that I would be the worst marathon coach in the world. If you're on listening right now, don't hire me to train you how to do a marathon. That's not what I do. For some reason, people that are clearly not eating what they need to eat are completely comfortable with the idea that they know exactly what is healthy. And they know this because all their friends know this too, even though the entire population gets more obese every 10 years. And we're spending more on medication to deal with this than we have at any point in our history. Despite the fact that apparently technology is supposed to make things cheaper and cooler, technology can't seem to help medicine keep up with this problem. So it's amazing how bad this problem is. It's probably the worst problem we're facing as a society. And yet people are adamant that, things like red meat will kill you, things like eggs will kill you. But, things like a 2-liter thirst buster of Coke is totally okay. And it's just amazing. Like, there's almost like this dogmatic, deeply held belief that they can't possibly misunderstand nutrition. So I think that's, that is a huge challenge for a coach to deal with. And so how do we actually deal with that? Well, luckily some people have reached a point where they're like, well, clearly I don't know, and I'm willing to just go in a whole hog. And for those people, we give them what we call an intervention program, where we go, okay, so your nutritional knowledge is broken, just like if your arm was broken, we're going to put a cast around it, and we're going to give you a meal plan, and we're going to tell you exactly what to do. There is no decision making for you at all, because we want to avoid what's called decision fatigue. And because the problem is that if people are given too many decisions, that fatigues their willpower as well. The same part of the brain that actually makes decisions is the part of the brain that makes the decision not to take a step back and eat a bagel. So if we give them this very specific meal plan, it's not because we want them to eat like that for the rest of their lives. It's because we want to conserve their willpower so that they can actually execute the meal plan and not sit there and go, well, am I supposed to eat, chicken and broccoli right now? Or wait, no, I'm managing my macros. So how many grams of protein? Those kind of things are brutal for a new client that's trying to adopt new habits to try to process right away. Then we get the other 20, 30% that are like, I can't possibly eat that meal plan because there's 11 things in there that me and my cousin and my coworker know are really bad for you. And to be honest, half the time we tell those people to go train with someone else because they're not ready to actually make that change. And I have some kind of brutal, blunt conversations with people where I'm like, what is it that you think you know about nutrition? And I'm constantly reminded of this story of like, there's this story I tell people all the time about a stockbroker that gets burnt out in New York City, and he decides he's going to travel to Tibet, and he's going to find a Buddha, and he's going to sit down with a Buddha, and he's going to become enlightened. And so he climbs all the way up this mountain, finds this Buddha, and I apologize to all the Buddhists out there if I'm doing a terrible job of representing your religion. This is just a metaphor. It helps people to understand a concept. But he finds this Buddha, and he starts to explain his problem, and he starts to tell the Buddha all the things that he's having a problem with. And the Buddha starts to talk, and immediately the stockbroker starts to ask questions and starts asking him if things are right. And this whole time, just as the stockbroker sat down, the Buddha had 2 teacups and a teapot, and he had filled both, that they were already full. And as the stockbroker's talking and telling the Buddha all the things that he thinks he should do and all of these things, the Buddha takes the teapot and he starts to fill the already full teacup to the point where it's overflowing and it's spilling all over the table, at which point the stockbroker stops and he says, well, what are you doing? And he says, this teacup is your mind. He's like, you've come to me seeking help, but you haven't let go of all the ideas that have brought you to this point. And your mind is already full. He's like, how can I give you more information that will help you if your brain is already full of everything that you think you know? Before I can begin to help you, you must empty your mind. You must accept that you know nothing about this, otherwise you wouldn't be here right now. And you must prepare your teacup to actually receive the knowledge. And that's what people kind of need to do with nutrition. They have to kind of say, wait a minute, I have no energy. I need 3 cups of coffee to get out of bed in the morning. I have to eat carbs at 11 just to keep myself going till lunch. The entire afternoon's a write-off. I basically goof off on Facebook. I hit the couch at about 7. Kids, all of these things, like they're struggling with all these problems where their bodies aren't working well, and yet they're holding on to these ideas about their nutrition that they just don't want to give up. And so I guess that's something that I try to impress upon people. And I know it's a much harder answer than just, well, you should have 35% of your calories from protein. Like that's what a lot of coaches like to say, right? But the truth is that the issue is not nutritional. The issue is about their mindset, about the behaviors that they exhibit, and about the beliefs that they hold, and try to influence those things, which is a much trickier thing to do.
I find it interesting that you said you had thought about going, you had left the one college to go to the other and wanted to learn about how the mind works and how human beings make decisions, and then you left that for something else, and now you kind of almost come back to that in aspects. No, I think that is the thing, is everyone is so afraid that they have to give up. Like, it's like, okay, if I start dieting, I have to completely stop eating the things that I'm eating now and eat stuff that I hate.
Yeah.
And, it's like, it
like
really,
it's a forever thing.
Right. Like it's a forever thing, where it's like, okay, so I can never have this ever again. No, you can have a soda. You just don't need 5 of them a day. Like,
exactly.
I think that's one, because I've told people, people ask me at work, and I just kind of explain it very simply that you can still eat all, and they look at me like, no, that's not a sexy answer. You're supposed to give me something that's flashy and sounds cool. I'm like, no, but it's really like, it's really not like it. It's not
complicated. Yeah, like, it's very complicated, but not in the paradigm that you're seeking the complexity. It's not a nutritional complexity. It's the complexity of changing people's habits.
Right.
And the point you made, Robbie, that's an awesome point. That idea of like, if I eat this today, if I accept that this is good for me, that means I have to stop eating the things I love. And for everybody listening, no, you don't. I had apple and pumpkin. Now, I'm no bikini model, but I had apple and pumpkin pie yesterday. And so I'm going to be low carb today, and I'm going to be doing an extra 20 minutes of battling rope, and that's kind of how, not 20 minutes nonstop of battling rope for those people that are just like, wow, that's so I probably do like 10 rounds of battling rope, and it's going to suck. And it's not going to suck. Like, I'm actually going to like it. And as I was eating, even as I was eating the pie, I was like, oh man, like I'm just going to have to bust it in the gym tomorrow. But it was like, that was my Christmas dinner, and it was like, okay, so yeah, I'm going to indulge, so it's not a life sentence, but it's the idea that, you're, and the other thing that kind of is nice for people to kind of think about is, there's meals that you eat for sustenance, and this is a ripoff from Tim Ferriss, so, huge.
I love Tim Ferriss.
Yeah, me too. And I steal stuff from him all the time. I should.
I have a small goal of 2015 is that if I can get the podcast big enough, I want to get him on to talk about the 4-hour body. But that's, I'm gonna have to work for that one.
But actually, that's funny too, because I think so this is just going to become a tribute to Tim Ferriss. But if you're listening, Tim, no, call me. But one of the things he says, and it was brilliant, like, because he puts things in a great, and frames it in a way that's so easy for people to understand. But he said, you need to look at it as 90% of your meals are for sustenance, and 10% of your meals are for enjoyment and happiness. Like, realistically, if you're scarfing down an Egg McMuffin on the way to drop your kids off at the daycare, are you really enjoying that, or are you just eating it because you're starving and you need some food? Mm-hmm. And so when you start to think of it like that, it's like, okay, so what if you were eating something that was cheaper, faster, because you just took it out of your fridge, much and was going to have a much better effect on your day and your energy? Wouldn't that be a great sacrifice to make? It wouldn't even be a sacrifice. Then, yeah, if you want on a Friday night, if you want to make a pizza, then that's okay, But if the rest of the time, all of the things you're doing are giving you better energy, then, that's a pretty good way to approach it. Is like, yeah, I can have meals that I'm going to enjoy. But the truth of it is, when you actually drill down and you look at what these people are eating, they're miserable about these food choices. These food choices they're almost like an addiction, where like they're feeding this addiction, but they're not happy about it at all. If they could move past this, they'd be quite happy to, if you just frame it at them the right way. It's like, look, we're going to give you food that's more affordable. You're not going to have to sit in line at Burger King. Just go to the grocery store, for crying out loud. It's right next to the Burger King, and the lineup's going to be way smaller, so you're going to be in and out of there in no time. You're going to save a lot of money, and you're going to feel good. And then, yeah, you can go out for sushi, or, you can have a piece of cheesecake. It's not the end of the world. But that's the other thing too with guys like Tim Ferriss, and as I mentioned, the way that you frame the information you present to people in a way that they're going to actually be able to act upon. I find a lot of coaches, they have been healthy their entire lives. They know, either they may not even really know because they're just genetic freaks and they're blessed, and they make, they have really nice stock images and they look really great. But they don't know, or they may actually know like the best way to get in shape, but they don't know the pain points, and they don't know the beliefs that a client that has been struggling their entire lives to lose weight are going to have. And that's something that actually, like, the Rugged to Rockstar program is all about that. Like, we are almost on a daily basis, we are looking at our systems and we are going, okay, so does this system help someone like a Gen Pop client to develop better habits? Like, are we building systems here that we can execute and they will affect the changes we want to see? Or are we just slapping ourselves on the back and giving our clients a hard time about not doing what we're asking them to do? Because those are two very different things.
No, I agree. Yeah. I think for, even for myself, I'm in the middle of studying for the ACE certification to become a personal trainer, because banking sucks and I want to help people. I don't want to sit and make money for a gigantic corporation that wants to build baseball parks and not give their employees better pay. But whatever, they can do whatever they want because they have billions of dollars. But I think that's the toughest thing even for me, because I was never super obese. I mean, yes, I was overweight and I was made fun of as a kid because I was like the fatter kid in like elementary school, and then like everyone caught up with me and I was like, ha, take that.
God bless the diabetes epidemic, even if things hurt for people. It's almost like Moore's Utopia with a whole lot of carbs.
Yeah. And I never, I tried to get in shape. I got in the gym, but I wasn't really tracking what I was eating. I was like, I will eat this healthy salad. Was it really healthy? Probably not. It had a lot of honey mustard dressing on it, but it was honey. It wasn't ranch. But I struggle with that because I don't know some people's problems, and I've never really dieted for more than a few years, and getting myself in shape. And I think that is one thing that coaches don't understand is, it's like, well, this is so easy for me. Like, my wife says that to me all the time. She's like, it's so easy for you because once you make a choice, you're all in or nothing.
Yeah.
And it's like, you've got to work better at understanding that not everyone thinks that way. And I do think that is a struggle for a lot of people. Because you can go to the gym, you can work out, you can give them the cues, you can help them, lift better, but connecting with that person and understanding that this nutrition is the hardest thing people struggle with. Because you can go to the gym and you can get your workout in the mornings before you ever see anyone at work or before you ever see your friends. But once you're out with them, they're like, oh, well, we can't go here because Tom can't eat that. And you're like, no, I can't eat that. Like, don't be a dick about it. Like, that's why you make it so hard for people, because everyone else,
it's true. I totally hear you.
It's a big struggle. So I got a few more questions here. We'll chat about.
Well, there was a couple things though about what you said.
Go ahead.
I mean, the first thing is that if you look at online training, what you're attempting to do with online training is you're attempting to scale your services so that, like, for someone to work with me one-on-one for like 3 hours a week, that's about $1,000 a month, and that's actually cheap,
right?
Because we're out here in Canada. So that's outside of the economic reality of a lot of people, and that sucks for me because, I don't want to just help 30 or 40 people. But although having 40 people pay you $1,000 a month wouldn't be the worst thing in the world, but you'd be pretty busy. But so we're constantly trying to build these systems so that we can scale our services, and we're always looking at these like, well, if we just gave them macros, if we just told them what to do, because building habits is so much harder to scale. It's so much harder to understand, how to get someone to adopt a new habit. Facebook does a brilliant job of this when they onboard you. And Dick Tallens talks about this. He says, do you know why Facebook makes you do things when you first start? Because they're teaching you how to use their platform, because they know that'll encourage you to keep coming back. And that's all about activation. And so, this is just the idea is that, as an online coach that works with Photocracy, and I've got a crew of guys and girls, sorry, Paige, that helps me out. But the point is that we're constantly trying to build systems so that we can deliver services to more people at lower cost. That's part of a startup model.
Right.
But when we do that, we have to be aware that if we don't activate these people, if we don't get them adopting these habits, then we'll fail. And so what you said before about most of your clients, we fail to understand them. There's a really great quote, and I think it's Bruce Lee, but somebody told me it wasn't. And it's like, the minute that you as a coach are failing to affect the behavior of your client, I'm pretty sure it's not Bruce Lee, but I think I paraphrased it from one of his books. Maybe it's me. Is the first thing you want to do if you're not reaching your client is you want to seek to understand. Mm-hmm. You want, before you do anything else, before you have an agenda, or before you say, I wish they would just eat fewer carbs, you've got to stop and you've got to sit down and talk to the person. You've got to try to understand them. And a lot of times, me being a coach for forever, for a long time, working with a lot of clients, I'm constantly going, oh, well, this is this kind of client. And it's like, there is no kind of client. Everyone has different problems. And the better that you can empathize and understand what these people are going through, the more likely they're going to be to trust you and do what you're asking them to do. That's a big part of the process. So I guess I just wanted to flesh that out a bit because, it's not scalable yet, but that's kind of like the loop we go through every day is like, what kind of lessons did we learn from our clients? How can we systematize those things? How can we apply them so that the next time that happens, it's a faster loop? But that's kind of how, I guess, that's something for coaches out there, I guess I would say, is that just be a little ease off on the whole, here's your macros and just do it kind of approach, and spend a little more time doing things that actually don't scale, because none of us have the solution yet. Like, I've looked everywhere, addictions, neuroscience, and there's a lot of really smart guys out there. We're all kind of starting to get closer, but we still need to be talking to clients and seeking to understand them better. Sorry.
No. I agree, and I know that's one thing I really, really, really have to work on. And I think it's very easy when you have things that connect you with people. But if you get a client and you're like, I don't, they come to you because they're like, I'm at my last resort, and maybe you don't have a rapport or anything that connects you, even in pop culture, you're like, I don't understand this. It does make it really hard. And you do kind of get used to the clientele that you have, and you're used to speaking a certain way, and you're like, oh, this person doesn't, but that happens. So just a couple more here before we wrap up the show.
Okay.
One, and then I'll go into a couple quick fire questions.
Sure.
So you do a lot of post rehab and helping people who've come off of injuries, and you do have an article on Photocracy kind of talking about that and how to get people back into shape when they're coming off of something that took them out of the gym for a while. And with you and strongman and lifting and competing and doing the things that you've done for a while, is there an injury that you had that you had to fight back from, that through that process it helped you to learn how to coach injured clients better?
Yes, absolutely. Pretty sick insight. And there wasn't one. There's probably at least 15.
Okay.
I've torn bicep. These are partial tears, but there's a tear in my pec. My one pec actually looks like there's an alien trying to bust out of my chest. Broken collarbone from rugby. I pulled a Babe Ruth and told the guys I was actually going to be running that way on a penalty play, and that wasn't very smart, but we did get the try. And it wasn't me though, because we passed the ball. Anyways, so yeah, there's been I am one broken military, rugby. I mean, I've freelanced as a bouncer for like probably 12 years.
Yeah.
Lifted weights when I was young, dumb, and stupid. I guess that, dumb and stupid is the same thing.
Yeah.
And so I've beaten myself up a lot. And yes, that and working with football players about 10 years ago and just trying to keep them on the field and seeing all the stuff that, like the West Side mentality of how to improve people even when they're beat up, because elite powerlifters, if they're always beat up. Anybody that's pushing the edge, and I always say too, is that if you want someone to fix your Volvo, you could do a lot worse than having the pit crew for an F1, racing team, right? Because those guys have seen it all. They understand the technology. They understand the auto mechanics better than anybody on the planet. Otherwise, they wouldn't be there.
Right.
And so they're going to get your Volvo running pretty well. And so I always get people that are like, well, I'm not a powerlifter. I can barely even get through the day without having sore knees. I don't know if I should work with you because I'm worried you're going to kick the crap out of me. And I'm like, no, that's the last thing I'm going to do. I'm the guy that understands what it feels like when you wake up at 3 a.m. and your knee feels like it's going to explode. Mm-hmm. And I know how to fix that, because the thing I love to do the most is to go into the gym and lift heavy weights, and to go from, oh my gosh, I can't even walk because I blew my knee out doing a strongman competition once. I figured that out, and I figured it out faster. And when I went in and the doctor said, just don't do that and take 3 weeks off, I was like, that's unacceptable. There's got to be a better way. And I figured out the way. And then I'm not a physical therapist. I'm not trained in physical therapy. I just have a couple courses in what we call post-rehab therapy. Fairly detailed courses and a lot of experience. But I'm not the guy that if you twisted your ankle yesterday, you come see me. Right. I'm the guy that if you twisted your ankle 6 months ago, and ever since then, even though the doctor says you're fine and just to take some ibuprofen, you still can't seem to go for a walk for more than 2K without it throbbing, then I'm the guy that will help you with that. Okay. So, yeah. Sorry.
Awesome. All right, so a couple of quick fire ones, and these you can answer as quick as possible, and then we'll wrap the show up a little bit. So I hate using the word cheat. I've had this blog post as an idea for a while, because I don't like it, because cheat has a negative connotation. Like if I were to say, hey wife, baby, I want to have like a cheat day on you, she'd be like, get the fuck out.
Yeah. Have a cheat century, pal. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So if you typically go off your diet and have like an indulgence, if you will, what is the one thing you enjoy to indulge in more than anything?
Chicken wings and a pitcher of beer.
All right. There we go. My kind of man. I like it. So who inspires you, whether in fitness or business or life?
My dog. Number one, I'd say my dog and her ability to just be cool and just love and just be chill all the time, because that's the exact opposite of me. That's why her name's Willow. It's the willow tree. She just bends with the breeze. I mean, realistically, Tim Ferriss is amazing. Oh gosh, man, so many people. Like lots. I don't know, Frig Hemingway. Just a billion people. I'd say just the one thing I would say really quick is that no matter who you are, there are better, smarter people out there, and and you might not be able to go have dinner with them, but you can sure as shit read their book or surround yourself with that kind of thinking. Nowadays with podcasts, with all of these tools we have, this idea of like the 5 people you hang out with the most determines your reality. It's like, well then make 2 or 3 of those people, like, I don't know, Shakespeare and Einstein, and hang out with these people, read some books, listen to some podcasts, like blow your mind up. That's kind of how you become smarter and more effective as a person. There you go.
Yeah. I think there's only like 5 or 6 podcasts that I listen to while I'm at work anyways. And I've Tim Ferriss is one of them, and throughout this whole year, I've felt a lot better and got a lot smarter. At least I think. I should ask my wife that. That's true.
huge props to Louis Simmons for just maybe not having all the answers, but being real genuine and giving out a ton of free knowledge. And Chris Kresser and Rob Wolf I've always really loved for nutrition and that whole ancestral approach to how we think about nutrition. So I listen to those guys a lot too.
Cool. What is your favorite activity other than lifting that you enjoy to do? Like a physical activity.
Oh, physical?
Yeah.
So, yeah, walking my dog down to the water's edge and looking at the city. And,
okay.
Yeah. That's pretty much it.
What is so this is my favorite question to ask all my guests.
there's like a not safe for work answer to that, but
well, other cardio as Fitocracy has it listed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So this is a question I ask all my guests, and I enjoy it because I think it's funny to hear some answers. I've gotten answers from I don't really have one, or things like Katy Perry. What song do you have on your workout list that is a guilty pleasure that you would not want to tell people is on your workout list?
Bang Bang, and but for my crew of powerlifters, they know that I play piano and guitar as well. I played my whole life and used to teach, believe it or not. And but I am totally cool with going from like Lamb of God, or like something really heavy while we're powerlifting, and then throwing on like Bang Bang and doing a little dance as everybody's like, this guy's crazy. So I really don't take myself seriously at all.
Nice.
Even when we're lifting. And I'd say I do love Katy Perry, and the guy that runs the gym. I don't run the gym I work out of. I don't like dealing with all that stuff. Yeah. So, but I always get in trouble for putting really silly songs on the radio. So yeah. All right. So Thom, if people have enjoyed listening to you and want to find out more about you, where can they find you on the internet or social media? Good question. So thomlamb.com is our website. Huge ups to Fitocracy. We do all of our online coaching through Fitocracy right now because we love that platform, and shout out to Jen, Jeff, Brian, the whole crew there. Amazing resource, and we love all the help that they've given us. So you can find me on Fitocracy. I'm one of their coaches, and we have a Rookie to Rockstar program that's actually kicking off January 1st. We're going to have 4 different serials starting one per week, all the way until the end of March. So tons of fun, and you can check us out on Fitocracy. I'm also at Coach Thom Lamb, and on Twitter, and on the Thom Lamb site, you've got all of our social media connections to Paige, our cohort, runs all of our social media, so she does an amazing job with that. Cool. Awesome. Well, Thom, thank you so much for coming on the show. Guys, please head over to check him out. I would highly suggest, if you are new and are looking for a fitness program, check out his Rookie to Rockstar. I've seen some of the results that he has gotten, and it's fantastic. And thank you. It's a great program. Yeah. If I wasn't already, slightly intermediate, I too would, join in. Yeah, thank you so much, Thom, for coming on, and it's been a good time. Yeah, and thanks to all the listeners out there. We appreciate it, and hit iTunes and give these guys a recommendation, because at least this episode is a really high quality show. The rest of them are good as well. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Cool. Well, thank you so much for coming on, Thom. Hey, no worries. Talk to you soon.